What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. The Switch Lite and Zelda both out today. Exciting stuff there, and it looks like Zelda Link's Awakening absolutely lit up the review boards, especially on Metacritic. We're going to talk a bit about those reviews today and what you can kind of expect from the game. I'm going to be playing it like all weekend, so I'm really looking forward to putting my own video together with my thoughts on a classic, absolute classic from the Game Boy. And we're also going to talk a bit about Steam and Valve seemingly running into a bit of an issue when it comes to digital distribution and I guess what happens to those games after you buy them, if they have value outside of just being in your library. And then we have a state of play for next week, something we kind of expected and heard, but we'll talk a bit about what we can expect and what you won't see there as well. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. It does help out. And get subscribed, little notification bell on, so you can keep up to date with all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. And we're going to start today actually with the Switch Lite. It's out now. You can go pick it up, $200. There's three different colors, of course. There's like a yellow, a gray, and then a turquoise blue. I'm picking up today a gray and a turquoise blue, and we're going to be taking them apart, checking them out and everything. And again, I'll give my thoughts on that system as well. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. I also managed to get a hold of the Daemon X Machina Joy-Con controllers. I'm just packed with stuff to go over in videos, and it's going to be a pretty fun, I would say, next 5 days of just stuff that we're going to be checking out and going through. But the Switch Lite looks good. People have been talking about it. Good reviews from what I've seen. People seem to really look at this more so than the current Switch as a Vita successor with size comparisons. The material, the plastic, basically the texture on that apparently feels really good. The D-pad seems to be a question mark for some places. I saw Game Explain wasn't 100% on it, but other places seem to really like it. So that'll be a point that I will make sure I really check out and dive into when we take it apart to see exactly what's going on with that D-pad. It's very strange to me that Nintendo seems to still have controversy around something that they really worked hard to bring into the market, you know, in the 80s. To see them still possibly struggling with the D-pad is weird. But overall, everyone seems to like the Switch Lite. I'm looking forward to picking those up today, checking them out, and having some fun. Oh, and check this out. The Epic Game Store has been working overtime to try to get consumers to their stores, whether it's buying exclusivity for games, even in some cases just outright having them as exclusives with no timed exclusivity that we know of yet, and giving away free games. That is a great way to get people on board because they just install your launcher and then they have games. Like, that's it. Games that you would normally be buying other places, not like free-to-play games. Check this out. Yesterday, they just put up 6 different Batman games. It was crazy. It was out of nowhere. There's a full list here that you can check out. It's Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Lego Batman 2, and Lego Batman 3. I actually like Lego Batman 3 a lot. That one was pretty good. And then the Arkham series is great as well, with Arkham City seeming to be the one that everyone likes. But I really liked Arkham Asylum, probably because it was the first one I played and I really liked it, and it was such a really cool way to show off a Batman game. And this is a good move. I mean, if you already have the Epic Game Store launcher because you didn't mind it in the first place, just open it up and download Batman. I think most people have probably played it, and it probably didn't cost the Epic Game Store too much to get this done. It appears to be going on for like the next week or so where you can pick these up. So if you don't already have it, consider it, I guess. But if you already have it installed, just open it up and install these games and you have them. Oh, and speaking of something that has like no controversy around if you should download it or not, Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition is getting a demo today on the Switch. This is going to go under the radar. There's a lot of stuff happening today. Link's Awakening, Untitled Goose Game, Switch Lite. It's going to get run over, right? Area 51 is happening. So much stuff is going on, but don't sleep on Ori. It's getting a demo. It's worth checking out. We don't know what is going to be in the demo, but it appears to be going up sometime around noon Eastern today. So you're going to want to download that if you've never played it. Outstanding game. I played it on the Xbox One. It's on Game Pass and everything as well. And I liked it so much. I actually even have it on PC. I have it on both platforms, and I bought it both times just because it's such a good 2D style game. So I would check it out. The music is fantastic. Kind of the mood and the atmosphere that they set in that game is amazing. It's kind of a sad game when you're playing through it, but it's very, very well done, and it's a free demo. Why not download it? I'm actually going to be curious on performance and everything on the Switch and how it looks, and that'll be a good one to check out. So I'm going to be downloading that demo as well. probably on the Switch Lite. And guys, some of the quick news of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with PlayStation State of Play. We kind of figured something was going to be happening. Remember, we talked about it. Daniel Ahmed said that there was something else happening that week, the week where they're going to bring in the media to show off Last of Us Part 2, which we assume is getting a release date. That seems pretty clear cut, but this did get announced on Twitter, and then there was a full blog posting on PlayStation's site. And it does say that we are getting a State of Play September 24th, 2019 live broadcast, about 20 minutes of content. Not 100% sure what's going to be in there. They don't really say. They say there's going to be some new games in there, some new game announcements. And we all assume at this point, I mean, let's be honest, a release date of some kind for Last of Us Part 2. A lot of us believe it's going to be in the first half of 2020. So that could be like an April release. It could even be like a February release, which would be very interesting. But it does read on their blog post, we're preparing a pretty hefty show weighing in around 20 minutes and sporting a fresh new look, and we'll have some great news to share with you, including new game reveals, new content from PlayStation's worldwide studios, and a host of other updates. Should be fun. But there is one thing that Sid Schumann, who's the director of social media, kind of explains here. Oh, and it probably bears mentioning, don't expect any updates related to our next-gen plans in this episode, because of course, everyone's going to go into it expecting to see some sort of hint or drop about the PS5, maybe when the event is that we all assume is going to be happening early next year, where they just tell us about the PlayStation 5 in some way, right? Whether it's they go down a list of specs, they actually show gameplay. That's probably not here, okay? They've said it's not here. People are still speculating that it is here, because they put out a video, and I saw this going around social media where people are saying, oh, there's 5 stragglers trying to get back in the line to form the State of Play stuff. I don't think there's gonna be anything that has to do with that. Sony will just drop when the event is on Twitter. They'll have a whole following going into it next year. I think what this is going to be is just for the holidays. You know, they'll talk about some games there. They'll tell us some of the stuff in the beginning of the year coming up. But the biggest thing here is there's no reason for them to really put any more of a light on the PS5 because it's not here for the holiday. If it was coming out this year, this event would be all about the PS5. But there's no reason for them to tell us about that when they're still going to try to sell PlayStation 4s this holiday alongside Death Stranding, and I'm sure Spider-Man will get picked up even though it's already been out for a while. But basically, they're kind of their back catalog of games, their third-party stuff, of course, which is super popular on the PS4, and then Death Stranding and their systems. That'll probably be cheaper on Black Friday. No reason to hang the PS5 over our head with any more information. They don't want it to be as public now, as opposed to the beginning of next year, when they're going to make their big marketing push over about, I'd say 8 months time, an 8-month span of marketing going into that. Now, what can we expect at this State of Play? Well, I have a few ideas. I think the biggest thing that I would like to see here is probably some more information on Ghost of Tsushima. I think that's a big time game that I would like to hear more about coming out sooner rather than later, although I think that's going to be one of their last games this generation that comes out, and might even end up having some cross-gen stuff with the PS5. I think a really fun idea would be to have a shadow drop of the demo for Final Fantasy VII Remake, as long as they're not worried about it getting data mined and all that stuff. That would be amazing to see that. However, we're seeing different things about an Ape Escape on Twitter. That could be a fun announcement. Might be some indie games there. I'm trying to think of the last State of Play where it was kind of underwhelming for some people, obviously, but they still showed Final Fantasy VII Remake and stuff, and that was cool. They had like an Iron Man VR game that's good for VR enthusiasts, and yeah, they'll probably have more VR stuff there. So while it's kind of hard to exactly tell what would be here 100%, I can pretty much guarantee Death Stranding Part 2 will have some sort of release date, possibly a Ghost of Tsushima look, possibly, we'll see, maybe an Ape Escape announcement, hopefully a Final Fantasy VII Remake demo that just drops onto the PlayStation Store. Sounds like it could be really fun, and we'll be watching it here. I'll probably be live streaming it as well. And here's hoping for some good announcements. Next up, let's talk about Zelda Link's Awakening. Super excited to get into this. I really, really am. I can't wait to get back to that game and check it out. Whole new light, right? 2019, visuals look awesome. I was unsure at first, but the more I've seen about it, the more I'm just ready to try this game out and see how it's changed. It does sound like the content is pretty much the same. There's not massive changes from what I'm seeing. Now, they do have that dungeon customization section, but that seems limited according to some of the reviews, and it's not a massive thing. It's kind of just thrown in there for fun for local play only right now, which is odd. There's no online sharing with that. You feel like you would want to share that, and it sounds like it's a fairly predetermined dungeon that you just move some pieces around, and that's kind of it. But the core game seems awesome. Like, everyone seems really happy with it. In fact, it has an 88 on Metacritic, which currently stands 1 point above Astral Chain, which is interesting because this is a remake of an old Game Boy game, whereas Astral Chain, brand new IP that is awesome as well. Really good game. Interesting to see that. Now, of course, Metacritic scores will change over time as reviews come in, but if we keep getting reviews like the one from Forbes that gave it 100, which is a perfect score, or we see reviews like IGN that gave it like a 9.5 or a 9.4, again, you start getting these type of reviews in and the score will just go up. I don't know if we'll get into the 90s per se. It might fall to 87 even and kind of level out with Astral Chain. But it is interesting to see a remake like Link's Awakening kind of show up here and get a score like this and kind of take over. It's going to sell well. I think they missed out big time with this, by the way, not having a Switch Lite themed Link's Awakening system. It blows my mind that doesn't exist because they have a yellow one already. Why didn't they just slap a Triforce on that thing and go and package Link's Awakening with it? They already know it's going to sell, I guess, but that seems like a missed opportunity. We are getting a Pokemon one, which is cool, but man, a Link's Awakening Switch Lite would have been amazing. Either way, though, seems like it's going to be a good game to get into. And if you didn't play it before, try it here, because it's been upgraded heavily. You see the Game Boy game and you see this one. The biggest thing that I see people talk about, or at least say is a big drawback for it, are frame rate issues, and I'm hoping that those can be worked out, specifically when you transfer between screens at times. It's all one big world essentially that you move through, but there are times where you'll transfer between screens, and it seems like when text pops up on the screen, it seems to slow things down, like when it's trying to introduce an area. So odd frame rate issues there, I guess. It tries to be uncapped to 60, but it falls all over the place, so that could be jarring, but otherwise, we're gonna have a good time, and I'm looking forward to playing some Link's Awakening. And it also makes you wonder, what else could they remake going forward? Next up, let's talk about an interesting situation between Valve and a place called UFC. It's an actual court case going on in France currently, in the French courts, and it appears that they've actually lost this case. That's right. It appears that Valve is having to look at this situation and decide what they're going to do going forward when it comes to digital distribution and digital goods. Because up to this point, we've kind of looked at this and said, well, you buy a digital game, that's it. You can't trade it, you can't sell it, it's just yours, and that's the way it goes, as opposed to physical media, right? Where you walk into a store, you buy it, you go home with it, and then you can let a friend borrow it, or you can sell it back to a store, or go on eBay and sell it, or Craigslist or whatnot. Basically, you could take the disc, you could take the cartridge, and you can get money for it and transfer it over to someone without any type of middleman or someone who would have to take digital rights and transfer them. Well, this court case seems to want something similar for digital games, and it looks like Valve and Steam, they're going to have to appeal this, or they might have to figure something out on their marketplace. Now, currently, there won't be any changes as Valve is going to be appealing this whole situation, but if they do fail, I guess the appeal fails or doesn't go through, they're going to have some decisions, because currently the consequences at this time is that they would have to pay up to 3,000 euros per day over the next 6 months, which, to be honest, looking at that, isn't a ton of money probably to Valve, especially with how much business Steam does. So I almost wonder if Valve would just say, you know what, all right, here's $1 million, that'll cover us for the next year or so while we get this worked out. That could be something that happens, because otherwise they're giving them a month of leeway time to figure it out. How do you figure that out? How do you allow people to transfer digital goods back and forth? Because then Steam is no longer selling the games, you're selling your games in their marketplace. That is an odd situation, because then even the developers are watching their games getting passed back and forth, and there's depreciation, yes, on the digital goods as Steam sales happen, but still, you don't ever actually hold something in your hand and transfer it to somebody. It's all digital, which means you can just transfer stuff back and forth with no issues, just at all, on Steam's platform. Odd situation, and I'm curious if any other courts or anyone else in the world is going to be picking up on this, because the reason Valve has a refund policy is because there was a court case in Australia that seemed to push that, and make that happen. So who knows what'll happen here, but I do think digital distribution and stuff will continue to evolve over time, and who knows, maybe we'll be selling our digital games back and forth on Steam Marketplace someday. And our last bit of news, we have some information for Luigi's Mansion 3. Some of it's maybe a little controversial. I want to see what your opinion is on the situation. First of all, the file size. With the eShop in Japan, we know it is 6.3 gigabytes. So once again, Nintendo's compression, everything working its magic, right? Very manageable, and I think most people probably have that free in some way. The interesting thing here is that there's already paid DLC that's been announced. Yes, I don't know how this is going to play out here for a lot of people, because a lot of times companies will get roasted for doing this, for having paid DLC already announced before the game's even out. But I do think there is a little caveat to that. We have to talk a little bit about that. But first of all, what is the DLC called? Well, we have 2 pieces of DLC, Scare Scraper and Scream Park. No other information appears to be out there for it. We just have to wait for them to tell us. And here's the thing. What I'm talking about with the caveat is, will they have a timetable later on, or is this coming out a month later? If it's coming out a month later, like what happened with Spider-Man, yeah, most people are going to say, well, wait a minute, couldn't that have been part of the full game? Maybe. I think we need to see the extent, we need to see the pricing. There's a lot of stuff we need to see here, and if it comes out like 7 months from now, we'll say, okay, well, yeah, it probably wasn't ready, and they're just working on it, they announced it. But we've seen this before, as Zelda had its DLC announced and everything as well. But we have to see the extent of it. However, we got to keep a close eye as well, because this could end up being a situation where it could have been part of the game. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one's from Rob saying, we need Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link to be remade. It would be hand-drawn like Wario Land, shake it. You know what? Zelda 2 would be an interesting game to have remade, mostly because it could do with a lot of quality of life updates that probably could be applied now in 2019. The art style could change heavily, like you're saying, and I think that's the biggest thing. If Nintendo does want to go back and remake an older game like a Zelda we're seeing with Link's Awakening, I think they want to have an art style in mind to do it in, right? Like the claymation plastic type look for Link's Awakening is a great idea. I would have never thought of that, but Nintendo did. This is, I think, the biggest thing they want to figure out, and can they make Zelda 2 more modernized? Because that is a game that would struggle to become modernized. But if they could pull it off and actually take Zelda 2 and reintroduce it to a new generation, that might end up being the Zelda 2 that most people know, and that could end up being a really cool thing to see. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's Link's Awakening, if you're picking that up, or a Switch Lite. Also, what about Luigi's Mansion's DLC, and then State of Play. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.